Are you struggling with roadblocks as a woman in the challenging and constantly changing world of corporate America? If you feel stuck in your career, you may be holding yourself back and may not even realize it. Prepare to be enlightened by the meaningful discussions here at the No Woman Left Behind podcast. Each week, gather the insight you need to break down those walls of limiting beliefs. Unleash your full potential and unlock the leader within. Listen to raw conversations with corporate women as they share inspiring stories with the purpose of obtaining their dream career and living a truly fulfilling life. Here's your host, Rosie Zelinskas.
Welcome back to the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. I'm Rosie Zelinskas, your podcast host. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. I came across an article on LinkedIn, and I just knew that I had to reach out to the person that was in the article. So her name is Mercedes Quintana, and the article was about, it was called 3 American Mothers on the Brink. So Mercedes is one of the moms that was interviewed for the New York Times. And afterwards, she also appeared on Good Morning America. So I really would like for you to go and look at the either article or the Good Morning America snippet, because it shows a picture of Mercedes right smack in the middle of the pandemic. And she is taking sheets out of the dryer. She's on the floor kneeling, and she just rested her face and her head right on the sheet. So it's incredible. I wanted to bring Mercedes on so that we can talk about how life was back then and how life is today in respect to her career, what was happening at the time, and now what is happening, of course. That was about 18 months ago. And again, we were right in the middle of the pandemic. It was like everybody was dealing with all the stress, but I cannot even imagine being a mom of young kids, especially having either to take care of them 24/7. At the time, her daughter was 3. So there was a lot going on for Mercedes and her family. So with that, stay tuned for the conversation. Hey, Mercedes, thank you so much for being here today. I had a conversation with you a little while ago, and I found you through LinkedIn, and I know that you were part of an article in the New York Times, and it was called 3 American Mothers on the Brink. This was published back in February of 21. So tell me a little bit about how that happened. How did you get on the article, and what was happening in your family at the time? We're like smack in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, so that was a very exciting time for us. We were living in our RV, actually, which is a 30-foot RV, bouncing between campgrounds every 2 weeks because our home was being built. And that's when I was following another mom on Instagram, and she just said, hey, check out this article. They're recruiting. Fill it out if you feel it'd be a good fit. And that's what I did. I just explained, we're a family living in our RV in the summer. I'm working, my husband's working 3 jobs, very hectic time. So I got a call because I'm sure that's a very unique story. And yeah, that's how it started. Was just kind of letting my anger out in that application or questionnaire, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's kind of how I got the contact for that article. And that's just kind of explains how we were at that time. It was kind of just unorganized and chaotic, just trying to make do until we got into our new home.
Yeah. How long would it have been till you got into your new home at the time?
We lived in the RV for about 4 months.
4 months.
So
wow.
It was, yeah. And it was in, June until about September. So it was hot and we were struggling, but I want to change it for the world.
So obviously you're a mom. How many kids do you have?
My husband and I together have 1, and he also has an older daughter, but we just have 1 right now.
All right. And so you said you were angry? Like, what were you angry about? Because again, you're a mom, even though your husband is there and he's actively involved in everything. You're stuck in this RV. You're stuck because it's in the middle of a pandemic. You have a daughter, and how old is she again?
Right now she's 4.
Okay, all right.
Then she was 3. She had
Three.
just turned
Okay,
3.
so just about three. And so why were you angry?
Oh, I mean, so many things. I felt so out of place. Like even the grocery stores I would go to, I didn't have my routine. I had it was a new grocery store. I didn't know what I was doing there. Trying to entertain our daughter in between Zoom meetings, trying to keep quiet, in between, okay, now my husband's on the Zoom meeting inside. I have to keep her entertained outside and cool. And then we'll switch. And I was frustrated because I couldn't cook in my RV. Like it was just so hard. It's doable, but it's difficult. I didn't want to clean anything, so everything was pretty, just so unorganized and chaotic, I guess is just the only way I could really describe why I was so angry.
Right.
I just wanted to go to my office and be at work, focus on work, and I couldn't. And that was just so frustrating because
Yeah,
everything was just blending together.
sure. And I know like one of the pictures in the New York Times article was of you taking clothes out of the dryer and you just kind of bent over and laid your head on
Yes.
the sheets. What was that about?
Oh, I was just exhausted. I think, as mothers and women just working from home, we can all understand is like, you don't go to the office and just concentrate on work. If you're at home and you get a break, you're going to quickly vacuum, you're going to quickly do the dishes. And that was just my moment of like, okay, I have 5 minutes. I need to switch the laundry. And I was like, it was all warm and cozy. I just kind of fell on it for a quick cat nap. But
That
yeah, that's pretty much what it
picture,
was around.
that picture says 1,000 words, you know? It's just like
Yeah.
it's incredible because I saw it, and part of the reason why I wanted to invite you on to the No Woman Left Behind podcast show is because it's very evident. That picture was very evident of the exhaustion of you being a working mom. And so this podcast is obviously about women in corporate, moving up the corporate ladder. And like you said, you had, a few minutes here and there, and you're trying to take care of your daughter primarily,
Mhm.
and then trying to do things around your husband's schedule, your schedule, you're switching Zoom calls. What did you do when you both had Zoom calls, or meetings?
Oh, we just kind of were like, sorry, she's in the background. I might have to get up.
There you
Sorry.
go. That makes sense. That makes sense
Yeah.
because obviously with a 3-year-old at the time, what are you going to do? Now, was your employer at the time understanding about the situation, or how was that working?
Yeah. My direct boss was very understanding. I mean, I would thank her every week for that. So she was a mother herself, so she understood. My coworkers understood. The clients, oh gosh, they were amazing through all of this, honestly. So yeah, everybody understood around my circle, but once it got higher up, it was like, what is she doing? Are we sure this is a good position for her right now? It was questionable, and I think that's what made me ultimately say this isn't a right fit. But I was very grateful that my direct boss was understanding and she had my back when it came to not having childcare.
Right. And so I'm sure you've heard of the Great Resignation that,
Mhm.
was pretty prominent during the pandemic. I think it's been slowing down
Mhm.
recently, and companies are now starting to lay people off. So what was it that ultimately made you decide to leave a corporate job and, I believe you're back to school, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So what made you decide to leave?
So the cherry on top was the vaccination requirement. I just whether I got it or not, I didn't like how they handled it. A lot of people were getting denied exemptions, even medical ones, and I just didn't feel like that was right. Um, they were just very like black and white about it, and I didn't approve. And that really was just, yeah, like the cherry on top of, I don't want to work here for the rest of my life. It's not where I want to be.
Right. Right. And was it difficult for you to make the decision to resign from a good paying job, or was it like not a no nonsense decision based on your life and your family and what was happening for you at the time?
It was actually really hard to make that decision because, like I said, I love my boss, I love my coworkers, I love the clients, I love mental health. Um, it's where I wanted to be. It was flexible. It was perfect. So it was difficult to make that decision, and it really did take a long time for me to think about it. Like I would talk to my husband, like, I don't know, I'm feeling stressed, but I don't know if it's fulfilling me anymore. So it was a long time coming. And I think with that vaccine thing, I was like, this is my way out. I'll just go now. Just kind of slip under the rug. Um, so yeah, it was really hard because I was leaving, almost 10 years behind to jump into something new.
Yeah.
So it was scary, but ultimately it was a good decision.
Well, and I think the key word that you just said was fulfilling.
Mhm.
Because if you're working in a job and it's not fulfilling, it could be a number of reasons why it's not fulfilling, then you need to do something different, right? You need to take
Yeah.
action. You need to talk to your boss. You need to figure out it, like if it's the right decision for you to stay there, or if it's, the
Mhm.
right decision maybe to leave and do something else, like yourself, either go back to school or search for another job, something like that. But it is a hard decision because you've had 10 years and
Yeah.
you have good relationships. And now all of a sudden you're pivoting and you're doing a 180 and now you're back at school. And
Mhm.
so what are your next plans for school? What's the next steps?
So I'm currently in school and I'll graduate around Thanksgiving time. And I'm in school for nutritional therapy. So it's still along the same lines of helping people. I don't want to say healing, but just getting people healthy in a spot where they're healthy and happy. Um, so I'm excited to do that. It took a while for me to sit there and really think about what I was passionate about, what was going to light that fire again. Um, and that's when my husband was like, you always talk about food and you always like tell people look at their ingredients. So find something along those lines. And I did. And so that's what I'm doing now. And once we graduate, we're going to start our own business. So my husband is a mental health therapist. So he'll do the mental health side and I'll do the nutritional side. And we'll just kind of take a whole body approach to health.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. Good for you guys. That's fantastic. And also that you're partnering and yet doing your own respective disciplines. Now,
Definitely.
I I just want to kind of go back, and you said, was it your husband that was telling you that you like food and to kind of try to do something along those lines?
Yeah, because I was really struggling of like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Like I love mental health and I'm passionate about it, but um I can't move up in that field. I'm stuck where I'm at, unfortunately. So I need to find a new passion.
Got it.
And I thinking about it for so long and I was getting so frustrated. And yeah, my husband was like, well, you always talk to people about their health and, go to your nutritional therapy practitioner. Why don't you just become one? I'm like,
That's
oh,
fantastic.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's the light bulb I've been waiting for.
And that's so nice that he was able to identify your passion without you even knowing it. And I think that's so important because one of the things, I was just interviewing Lori Swanson a couple of weeks ago, and she said that
Mhm.
there's 4 stages of a career, and the contemplation stage is the first stage. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you were kind of held up a little bit. But your husband, that I think that is so cool that your husband was the one that said, hey, listen, you love food. You're always telling people, how to be healthy and, about ingredients. So What an amazing partnership that you have, that he recognized your passion before you did. I think that's
I know.
fantastic.
I'm like, I need help.
That's awesome. Now, one thing that's super cool about food, as you well know, food can cause so many issues, especially gut issues that
Yeah.
translate into mental health issues.
Hmm.
So you're going to be still helping people. You're going to be doing it through food instead of through therapy and things like
Yeah.
that. So I think that that's really cool. And the fact that you're working with him, with your husband, I think
Hmm.
that's going to be very, very cool. Okay, so going back, I want to take you back to the pandemic time where you're still
Hmm.
working full time, and again, you have your daughter and your husband at home. Do you feel that you both contributed equally to the household responsibilities, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think um for a lot of people, that could be a difficult question because it's like it's a big picture question.
Mhm.
And that's something that we discuss, between ourselves is at that time he was working 3 to 4 jobs.
Wow.
And yeah, so if somebody were to come into our house, not speak to us, it would look like he's just in his office all day and I'm doing everything. And that is just not the case. I don't want to work 3 jobs. I'll happily contribute to the other half of the household of keeping it clean, keeping, food on our table when he is working for the food, keeping our daughter happy. So, yeah, I mean, we definitely contribute equally. Whenever he's on his break, he was right there next to me, spending time with me, spending time with our daughter so I can get a break. Um, letting me know, okay, if you want to go and take a break, let me know so that I could block out that time. Um, so yeah, we definitely contribute equally in our own ways, but it keeps us functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so commendable because you were in a good position, even though, the pandemic sucked, but you had that partner and he was right there by your side, even though he might not physically be doing things around the house, but he was working and you knew that he was working and he's doing it for you and for your daughter. So I think that's a great partnership. You can't really ask for anything more. It would be different if after work he just did his own thing and
Right.
you were still taking care of everything else and you were still working full time. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think a lot of women during the pandemic did get a lot of the brunt of the responsibilities
Mm,
and not really even. I don't think the men necessarily don't want to contribute, but a lot of it has to do with the child rearing. And, the
yeah.
children tend to gravitate to their mom when they're especially younger kids.
Hmm.
So my kids are now the 21 and 24, but during the pandemic, even then they were like 19 and, 20, 22. But I cannot even imagine having a child that you have to take care of, 24/7. And or the other one of my sisters has two kids. They were like in fourth and sixth grade or third and fifth grade
Ugh.
at the time. And that's really hard because
Yeah.
just getting them to be on Zoom all day and that
Hmm.
whole thing, that was really difficult. So at least you
Ugh.
didn't have the school age time at that
Yes.
time.
Yes, I keep that as like a positive thing. I have to remind myself once
Absolutely.
in a while.
So, what kind of job were you doing at the time? I mean, I know you were mental health, but what exactly were you doing?
So I was a case manager slash addiction specialist. So that kind of means it was like anytime a client needed anything, food, housing, link to a psychiatrist, new therapist, they called me.
Mm,
I kind of, the way I described it to new clients was like, I am your personal assistant that's available 8 to 4. But I'm here to just help you navigate, where you want to go and your goals. I did a lot of addiction treatment. So with, it was unfortunate, but we saw an uptick in addiction, especially people that were in recovery. So we did addiction groups, one-on-one counseling, just there to just chat with them because it
mhm.
was very lonely for them as well. So
Yeah. I can't imagine, someone that really relies on those support groups that you would
Hmm.
go to a personal, like in person, and then having that taken away. So
Yeah,
that's a huge thing that they now have to overcome and transition to Zoom. And who knows if they even have the ability to have a
they
camera or
didn't.
whatever, so
Yeah, no phones, no laptops, uh, no ride. They were used to public transportation. Their world just got turned upside down.
gosh, I cannot even
So
imagine. And of course, you as their case manager are feeling the stress because you can't help them the way you normally would prior to the pandemic. So I'm sure that was
yeah.
stressful on you as well. Holy
Oh
cow.
yeah.
Were there any as far as your job, again, being a full-time mom working, did you get any support from your employer from the mental health side of the house?
Um, yes and no. I mean, my boss was always like, "I'm here to talk. I'm here for you to vent," things like that. And she definitely was. Same with my coworkers. Um, I would say the first year of the pandemic, because to go after that, we used our supervision in our meetings just to vent to each other.
Mm,
Um, so that was really good. When I did reach out to the company for my own mental health support and just my own support in general, if I don't have childcare, like, and I didn't have vacation time, anything like that, I ran out, and they were like, "We can't help you. You either work or you quit. Like, there's nothing left that we could do to help you." And my boss was like, "Oh no." She did not like that answer. I didn't like it. I remember that day I was driving by myself and I had spoken with the HR department, and they were like, "There's nothing we could do. You either quit or you just push through." And I was like, "I have a 3-year-old with no childcare. Like, he's
wow,
not going to
that's
understand."
rough.
Yeah, I was so mad. Oh my gosh. That's like the whole pandemic really just made me realize like this company just wants money. Like, they're not about their employees' mental health, the client's mental health. It was sad, but made it through.
Yeah. So now, how did you how did you try to do any kind of self-care for yourself?
Ugh, that was hard because my self-care, pre-pandemic was pedicures. I would be out of the house for an hour and it was just enough time to relax, take a nap, with things like that. So really, like, my self-care, just it went away. It went on the back burner because for me, like, I can't relax if I have work to do. If I feel chaotic, unorganized, I'd rather take that time to try to organize,
Sure.
my life. um, so I don't know. Yeah, I especially in the RV, I just didn't have any self-care time, and I could tell that took a huge toll on me,
Mm,
unfortunately. Um, so I think my self-care kind of went into a different direction of reading ingredients. Like, I'm gonna, even though I can't take 5 minutes to myself, I'm gonna make sure that what goes in my body is gonna be healing and nourishing, so that I don't feel like I need that self-care every day kind of thing. So it kind of, flipped a little bit. I didn't take time to myself, but I just took care of myself
that's
and my
great. That's great. And it kind of that no wonder your husband was like, yeah,
I know.
ingredients, that makes more sense now. Okay, so I know that I saw a second picture with you. You were kind of, I think, in a closet and you were kind of crouched down with a laptop and your daughter was like right behind you. Was that in the RV or was that in your new house?
That was in our new house.
Okay.
Thank Thankfully we have a large closet, so that was my attempt at making an office. It still didn't work because she still came in, and I was like, I might as well just work in the living room. So that was my attempt in office.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I was like, I need to ask her about that particular picture because it
Yeah.
cracked me up. I mean, it's like you're trying to work and you're kind of on the floor, but then she's right behind you. So
Yeah, I
it was
had my
pretty.
little mini desk and my setup, and just okay, if she's away for a little bit, I can close the door and have a quiet call, but it never
It
worked out.
never worked out, never panned out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I also wanted to ask you during this whole time when you're going to bed and you're thinking about yourself and how you're handling everything, what did you learn about yourself during that time?
That I am so resilient and strong. Like to get up every day and do it all over again. Like, I think we go to sleep at night and like that was terrible. That was a horrible day. But then the next day we get up and we do it all over again and we think the same thing at night. That was terrible. Um, so really just yeah, just how resilient I am getting up every day, doing the same thing, same routine, cooking, cleaning, work, being a mom, being a wife. I'm just strong. I just go out there and I do it. I have no choice.
That's great. No, I love it. I love that you said that you're strong and resilient because obviously you have to and even if we hadn't been in a pandemic, right, having a young child, it's not easy. Working or going to school and having a young child is not easy, but
Yeah.
you got through it, you did it. And I mean, we're still in the remnants of the pandemic. It's they're saying we're not really officially in it, but COVID's still here. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still getting sick with COVID. Thank goodness it's not nearly as bad as it
Yeah.
was. So obviously it's been about 18 months since the article has been published.
Mhm.
How has life changed? How are you doing with your family dynamic? Like how is life now versus, the chaos 18 months ago?
So much better. Oh my God. We feel like
Good.
we're back into a groove. I don't go to sleep every night thinking that was horrible. I look forward to waking up in the morning and getting a new day. Um, my husband is doing private practice now, so he makes his own schedule, and it's only one job, not
Nice.
four. So we get to see him a lot more. Mila, our daughter, is a little bit more independent. So I can just say, like right now, I'm going to be on a call. My door's going to be shut. I need you to play. If you need anything, wait for dad. So that is so helpful. I'm just more organized, and I think that brings me a sense of calmness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wouldn't say I'm where I want to be with organization, but we have a routine, and that's all I can ask for.
Good.
Because in the beginning of the pandemic, moving, working, just trying to balance everything was so chaotic. We didn't have a routine at all. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
so
mean,
much.
everybody got thrown into in this life curveball, right? Like literally
Yeah.
globally. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember seeing all the videos from like people in Italy where they're like playing, I think like catch or something from window to window, from apartment
Yeah.
to apartment, things like that, where you see like just interesting ways at how people were able to still relate and entertain. I've
Mhm.
seen things where women would go to like a parking lot and they would park, their minivans like feet apart, with the
Mhm.
social distancing, but they're all in their vans, and it was winter at the time. So everybody's like in their coats and they have all the back of the vans like up and they're like just kind of chatting because that's the sanity that people
Yeah.
at the time to get through it.
Yeah.
So
We all adapted. We just knew what we needed and we adapted to the rules and regulations.
absolutely. So knowing everything that you know now, would you have done anything different back then?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, quit my job earlier? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I, I mean, I think everything we did, you know, was the best to our ability. We needed to keep our jobs. We somewhat enjoyed our jobs. Um, It's not like in the pandemic I could have had a babysitter, because that's the one thing I really wish I had. Um, I don't know. I think maybe learned a little bit earlier on to take breaks, not put my job first, just do it, pay attention to what matters is my
Mhm.
daughter and not the job, not the clients, because ultimately they all survived without me. Um,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
my daughter, my husband can't survive
Right.
without me. So
Hey, absolutely. So when so there's no regrets. I mean, I think you did everything the best that you could. There really couldn't have been anything else that you could have done. And at least
yeah.
now you seem much more, even when I talked to you whenever, like 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago or whatever, um, now you seem like more relaxed. You seem like you're happier. So I'm so glad that you guys have a good routine, because it's just so important. And I like the fact also that you said that, not that you're going to actually, let me do a little bit of a tangent. So there's this term, I don't know if you've heard it recently, and it's like brand new, coined quiet quitting.
Yeah.
And quiet quitting, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, because these are people that were giving 120% to their work,
Mhm.
working a lot of overtime, putting in a lot of extra hours, and now all of a sudden they're still doing their job, they're still contributing and meeting all their key performance indicators and all that stuff, but they're not going above and beyond, and they're not putting all the extra hours, because they want
Right.
to enjoy life. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I think the pandemic made a lot of people realize, as far as work is concerned, is that a lot of us were working, and we felt that obligation, because that's kind
Mhm.
of what we have it ingrained. I think the United States is unique in this. Other countries kind of look at the United States and they're like, you guys are nuts, you work.
Yeah.
But now the pandemic has made people realize that we really need to enjoy the moment, appreciate the day
Yeah.
away from work. And you're still working your whatever 8 to 4:30 or whatever your hours are, and you're still dedicated, but you're just not killing yourself, for
Mhm.
just the job. You're trying to really balance. And I think that's the biggest thing. I wish it was called something different, like I
Like
had
just
said there's,
doing your job.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
sticking.
So you're doing your job, but you're not putting your life on the back burner for the
Mhm.
job. I'm glad that we're here now, because there, how many times have you heard of someone that retires and then within the year they drop dead from a heart attack or something?
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, that whole time you could have been enjoying your life a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
And I think that actually will probably bring us back to that question, is that's something I would have changed. I
mm,
would have said, just because I'm working at home doesn't mean I'm going to work 10 hours. Just because I'm working from home doesn't mean I have all this free time now. Because there was a threat basically from the higher ups of, you need to prove that you're essential. And if you don't, like, we're going to cut your program. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I would work my butt off. I would stress out, take on extra work, take on extra clients. And I shouldn't have done that, because
mhm.
not only are we working extra, but we're taking on this extra emotional thing from the pandemic, stress, life. So that's one thing I would change, is just say no. No, I'm not going to take a group. No, I'm not going to take extra clients. I can't do it.
Yeah. And that's actually a good lesson for you, I think, when you and your husband start to establish yourselves in your own practice. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
going to come back and be a good lesson for you to say, okay, I can work however many hours, and
Mm-hmm.
and then set boundaries around that. Even though
Yeah,
your husband may be like, let's take extra clients, you still have to kind of balance that, work
definitely.
and life. Yeah, so that's great. So all right. Well, it's incredible to me how far you've come, and you're still a resilient and strong woman, that you want to advance, you want to create now your business. So you're recreating your life. So I think one thing that I want to make sure that women in corporate understand is that things can pivot, you can change, you can do something different. And whether you stay in corporate or start your own business, and so many people that resigned during the pandemic left corporate to start their own businesses. And you know what? Good for them, right? But I think all of these lessons are really going to help you and your husband to really establish a really amazing business that where you're going to be able to help people and you're going to be able to do it on your own terms. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference for you guys.
Definitely, because he had just left corporate too in the middle of the pandemic. So we're like right there with each other of no more meetings, just family. Let's just make our own business and do what we want.
That's great. I'm excited for you guys. And you're in California, so you have nicer weather than Chicago.
A little. It's 110 today, so.
Oh, well, okay. I don't know if I'd rather do the 110 or the minus 30 with the wind chill factor, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I might rather be cold. I'll say that now, but when I'm cold, I'll say I want 110.
Exactly. So, okay. So I wanted to ask you if you could give 2 tips to women in corporate that are struggling in their careers, that maybe are working too much. Like what are a couple tips that you have for women in corporate?
First, I would say give yourself grace. You can't do everything in 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 a day, whatever. You can't do it all. So give yourself breaks and grace and learn to say no. I know we always want to give 110% in our jobs and at home to ourselves, and we can't do that. I think everything has to give. One day give 60% to work, 20% to home, and then the rest to yourself. And I think that changes on a daily basis when we give ourselves grace. Secondly, I would just say nourish yourself. If you're not nourishing yourself, you're stressed, your body is stressed, and you won't notice it until it's basically too late. And then you're sick. I know when I get a cold and I'm like, oh gosh, I should have just taken care of myself because now I'm miserable. So yeah, I would say give yourself grace with every day that comes and what comes with that day, and then nourish yourselves. Give yourself food, what your body needs to overcome this daily stress that we go through. Take a lunch break, take a breakfast break, whatever it is, take your breaks. Don't push through those breaks. Take them, enjoy your food and relax.
Yeah, those are great tips. And especially with the nourishing one, that includes water. So many people don't drink enough water. So
no. And add salt to that water for more hydration.
And actually that's what I do. So what I do is I take a bunch of lemons and I squeeze them. So I have like a juicer and I squeeze them and I put them in like little ice containers, like the freezer. So it's already all done. It's fresh. And I pretty much do it like once a week. And I have my big jug of water. So have that, do the salt and the lemon, and then I do it in the morning and the afternoon. So I get my water. So it's very cool. Okay. Well, Mercedes, this was a great conversation. I still think it's kind of cool that you were in the New York Times article. And did you do anything else other than the New York Times article?
After that, I kind of went radio silent for a little bit, but then I kicked back up with Good Morning America, and we just talked about, what moms are still going through. I think it was about a year following the article, I think. So yeah, it was just a little follow-up of how moms are still feeling like we're in the thick of it.
Wow. Well, if you have that link, send it to me. So I'll attach it to the show notes. So that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And any final words from our conversation?
I don't know. I guess if anybody wants just any quick nourishing tips. Follow me on Instagram, realistically.nourished. Other than that, I think women are just incredible. We do it all.
Yeah.
And just always give yourself a pat on the back.
That's fantastic advice. All right, Mercedes, thank you so much for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
All right.
Of course. Thank you.
It was so incredible how Mercedes's life has changed from 18 months ago to today. I commend her for, like she said, she learned about herself that she is strong and resilient. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. You can tell that she is a much better place today with her new home, and she's much more settled. She quit her job. She was actually part of the Great Resignation, where she decided that corporate was just not working for her, and especially with the way the employer was doing things. So she just decided to quit. She went back to school, and she's still doing school right now. And she is going to become a registered dietitian and go into business with her husband. So I think that is amazing. So strength and resiliency is something that she learned, and she knows that she had to go in there and take care of her daughter and do all the things during the pandemic, and she came out on the other side. The two tips that Mercedes gave us are, tip number one is to give yourself grace and to take breaks. She said that you're not going to be able to do it all, so you may as well take those breaks. And I love the fact that she said to give yourself grace. And I'm going to add compassion as well, because sometimes we women, we're so hard on ourselves that we forget to be compassionate towards ourselves. Tip number two, Mercedes says to nourish yourself with good food. Make sure that you're eating healthy and the food that you're eating is good for your body. And I actually added the fact that we also need to hydrate. So one of the things that I do is I have a big water bottle. It's like half a gallon. So I do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, but I have a juicer. So I juice lemon juice, and I put it in ice cube trays, freeze them. And then that way, every morning I just have to pop my lemon ice cube, put a little bit of salt in there, and that I have my water ready for the day. And again, I do that in the morning and in the afternoon. So just a couple of quick tips on how you can easily hydrate and, again, eat good food. So Mercedes's contact information is going to be on the episode blog. So if you're on Apple, there is a link that says episode website. You go to that. It's the blog, and it's a transcription of the podcast show, as well as all of her contact information is at the bottom of the blog. So with that, have a great day, and remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Let these stories of self-encouragement and professional development serve as a guide in navigating through corporate America in the most practical and fulfilling way possible. Do not forget to subscribe to the show at nowomanleftbehind.com for more content like this. Leave a rating and share it with your friends, because we want to make sure that no woman is left behind. Until I see you next time, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.